Another student loan payment? Dad tossed my mail across the dinner table with disdain. All that money for a business degree and you're still working as a junior analyst. Should have gone into engineering like I said. I quietly picked up the envelope, remembering the day 3 months ago when I'd actually paid off my loans in full. Not that they knew about my rapid rise at Griffin Global Enterprises, or that I wasn't just a junior analyst anymore. Jane got promoted to senior engineer last week. Mom chimed in, referencing my childhood friend. Making 6 figures now. If only you'd listened to your father. I suppressed a smile, thinking about the 7-figure bonus sitting in my investment account. The same bonus I'd earned for orchestrating Griffin's most successful international expansion. How's the job hunt going? Dad continued, between bites of Mom's meatloaf. Any real positions opening up at Griffin? Maybe in maintenance or reception. At least then you'd be in the same building as actual executives. If only he knew I had the corner office on the top floor. Still just analyzing data, I replied vaguely, using their assumptions as a shield. For 3 years I'd let them believe I was struggling, partly because I was tired of their criticism but mostly because I enjoyed the irony of their ignorance. Emily, Dad sighed, using his disappointed parent voice, you need to be more ambitious. Look at me, 30 years at Griffin, worked my way up to senior maintenance supervisor. That's real work, not pushing papers and making spreadsheets. I nodded, remembering how just yesterday I'd approved his department's budget, cutting it by 15% due to inefficiencies I'd identified. The memo would hit his desk tomorrow. The company party is next week, Mom mentioned. Your father gets to bring family this year. You should come, network with some real professionals. I wouldn't miss it, I said truthfully. After all, I was hosting it. The week passed in a blur of executive meetings and international conference calls. While Dad fixed ventilation systems and bragged about his inside knowledge of corporate operations, I was restructuring entire divisions and negotiating multi-billion-dollar deals. My phone buzzed during a board meeting, a text from Mom. Don't forget to dress professionally for the party. First impressions matter. I glanced down at my Armani suit and Louboutin heels, then at the nameplate on my desk. Emily Chin, Griffin Global Enterprises. Everything okay, Ms. Chin? My CFO asked. Perfect, I smiled. Just confirming details for tomorrow's party. Speaking of which, has everyone signed off on the new organizational changes? Yes, ma'am. Including the maintenance department restructuring. Though some supervisors might be surprised by the budget cuts. I thought of Dad's face when he'd see the memo. Change can be surprising. The night of the party arrived, and I watched from my office as employees and their families filed into Griffin's grand ballroom. Mom had insisted on doing my makeup and helping me choose an outfit. I'd let her fuss over me before changing into my actual party attire at the office. Miss Chin, my assistant Michael appeared. Everything's ready. The board members are in position, and the organizational announcement is prepared for your speech. Perfect. And my parents. Your father is currently telling anyone who'll listen about his direct line to executive decisions. Your mother is at the buffet, explaining how her daughter works, somewhere in data entry. I smoothed my designer dress and checked my reflection. Time to adjust their perspective. The ballroom fell silent as I approached the podium. Dad was mid-story about his maintenance expertise, while Mom arranged appetizers on her plate. Neither had noticed me yet. Welcome to Griffin Global's annual family celebration, I began, my voice carrying through the professional sound system. Dad's head snapped up. Mom's plate clattered. For those who don't know me, I'm Emily Chin, CEO of Griffin Global Enterprises. And we have some exciting announcements about the company's future direction. The look on their faces was worth 3 years of playing along with their assumptions. The silence that followed my introduction was broken only by the sound of Mom's appetizer plate hitting the floor. Dad stood frozen, his champagne glass suspended halfway to his mouth, as his colleagues turned to stare at him. The maintenance supervisor who'd been bragging about his corporate insights, now revealed as the CEO's clueless father. Before we begin, I continued smoothly, I'd like to acknowledge our long-term employees, including our maintenance supervisor, Robert Chin, my father, who's been with Griffin for 30 years. The spotlight found him and I watched him shrink under its glare. His maintenance team, scattered throughout the ballroom, exchanged shocked glances. As many of you know, Griffin has been undergoing significant changes. Tonight, I'm announcing our most ambitious restructuring to date. I clicked to the next slide, displaying the new organizational chart. Starting next quarter, we're consolidating our operations to improve efficiency. Dad's eyes widened as he found his department on the chart, now under new management, with a significantly reduced budget. Of course, I added, my voice carrying a hint of irony only my parents would understand. These changes are based on thorough data analysis. Something my business degree proved quite useful for. The board members chuckled. They'd heard about my parents' dismissal of my education during the vetting process for my CEO appointment. It had become something of an inside joke during board meetings. Miss Chin, my CFO, approached the podium right on cue. Shall we discuss the international expansion? Of course. But first I see my mother by the buffet. Mom, would you like to join us? I believe you were just telling Mrs. Peterson about my job in data entry. Mom's face turned scarlet as Mrs. Peterson, the wife of our Asia-Pacific director, tried to hide her smile. Emily, she whispered as she reluctantly approached, why didn't you tell us? Tell you? I raised an eyebrow. Like when I tried to tell you about my promotion to director of operations. You were too busy comparing me to Jane's engineering career. Or when I made executive vice president. Dad was explaining why real work doesn't happen in offices. The ballroom had grown uncomfortably quiet, hundreds of employees watching this family drama unfold. Dad finally unfroze, placing his champagne glass on a nearby table with a shaking hand. But you're just... He stammered. Just what, Dad? Just a paper pusher? Just wasting my degree? Just a disappointment compared to all those engineers you admire. Michael appeared at my elbow. Miss Chin, the Tokyo office is on the line about the merger. Put them through to the main screen, I instructed, watching my parents' faces as the massive display lit up with a live feed from our Japanese headquarters. Chin-sama, the Tokyo team bowed respectfully. The contracts are ready for your approval. $5 billion as negotiated. Dad's knees actually buckled. A nearby executive caught his arm, helping him to a chair. Excellent. I responded in fluent Japanese, another skill they dismissed as impractical. Process the transfer. I'll review the final documents in the morning. As the screen went dark, I turned back to the stunned audience. Now about those organizational changes. The next hour was a blur of announcements, presentations, and strategic reveals. Throughout it all, I watched my parents from the corner of my eye. Mom had found a seat next to Dad, both of them staring at me like they'd never seen me before. In a way, they hadn't. They'd never seen me lead a board meeting, negotiate international deals, or command a room full of executives. They'd never bothered to look past their own assumptions about what success should look like. And finally, I concluded, we'll be opening our new Silicon Valley campus next month. The Chin Innovation Center, named after. I paused for effect. My grandmother, who sold her wedding ring to help pay for my worthless business degree. That got Dad's attention. His mother's sacrifice had been a point of contention for years. He'd called it a waste of family resources. Questions? I asked the room. Hundreds of hands shot up, but all I could see was my parents' hands remaining firmly in their laps, their worlds quietly imploding. Mr. Chin, I called out, enjoying how Dad flinched at the formal address. As maintenance supervisor, perhaps you'd like to share your inside knowledge about our corporate direction? You seemed to have plenty to say earlier. After the presentations concluded, I watched from the elevated platform as my parents sat shell-shocked at their table, barely touching the gourmet dinner being served. Around them, employees and executives buzzed with excitement about the announced changes, occasionally throwing curious glances their way. Your father's maintenance team is requesting an emergency meeting, Michael murmured, appearing at my side. Apparently, they're concerned about working under the CEO's father after his numerous claims of executive insight. Schedule it for Monday, I replied, taking a sip of champagne worth more than Dad's monthly salary. And send them the complete efficiency reports. Let them see exactly why their department is being restructured. And your mother has been trying to access your office, he added. She told security she's the CEO's mom, and demanded to see your credentials. I couldn't help but laugh. How the tables turn. Remember last Christmas when she told everyone I was still finding my way, career-wise? The irony was delicious. For years they'd dismissed my career choices, my education, my entire professional path. Now they were scrambling to understand how their underachieving daughter had become their boss. Miss Chin, one of the board members, approached. That was quite a revelation about your parents. Though I must say their previous comments about your career make our quarterly profit margins even more impressive. Nothing motivates quite like parental doubt, Richard, I smiled. Speaking of which, I nodded toward my parents' table, where Dad was now arguing quietly but intensely with Mom. Their body language screamed discomfort as executives stopped by to introduce themselves to the CEO's parents. Emily, a familiar voice called. I turned to see Jane, my childhood friend, standing there in her engineer's badge. Your father invited me as his department's consultant. I had no idea that the girl whose business degree was throwing her potential away is now your boss? I finished for her. Life has interesting twists, doesn't it? Your mom kept telling my mom how I was making 6 figures. She trailed off, clearly uncomfortable. While I was making 7 plus stock options? I raised an eyebrow. Maybe we should discuss your consultant contract. My useless business skills might have spotted some interesting margins for negotiation. As Jane hurried away, I decided it was time for the final act. Michael, please escort my parents to my office. I believe we're overdue for a family meeting. Minutes later, I entered my corner office to find them standing awkwardly among the trappings of my success. Mom was staring at my Wall Street Journal 40 under 40 cover feature, while Dad examined the view from windows that overlooked the city he'd only seen from ground level. Quite different from the maintenance office, isn't it? I asked, closing the door. Emily, Mom started, her voice trembling. Why didn't you tell us? Tell you. I walked to my desk, running my hand along its polished surface. Like you told Grandma her sacrifice was wasted? Like you told our relatives I was still finding myself while I was negotiating million-dollar deals. We were trying to protect you, Dad protested weakly. The corporate world. The corporate world that I now run? I interrupted, pointing to the organizational chart where his department was clearly under my authority. The one where your job literally depends on my decisions. About that, he shifted uncomfortably. The budget cuts are necessary and backed by data, I finished. Or is my business degree still too worthless to make those calculations? Mom sank into one of the visitor chairs, her social climbing fantasies probably rewriting themselves in real time. All this time, when we thought you were struggling, I was running the company, I nodded. Interesting how assumptions work, isn't it? You assumed my degree was worthless, my job was entry-level, my potential was wasted. Meanwhile, I was becoming your boss. We were wrong, Dad admitted, looking smaller in his maintenance uniform than I'd ever seen him. About everything. Yes, you were. I sat down in my executive chair, the power dynamic finally physically matching reality. And now we have some decisions to make. Decisions? Mom looked up sharply. About your positions here. I pulled out 2 folders. Dad, your department's inefficiency isn't just about numbers. It's about leadership. Your claims of executive insight have created liability issues. He paled. Are you firing me? I'm offering you choices, I corrected, pushing the folders forward. Option 1. Early retirement, full benefits and a generous severance package. Option 2. A transfer to our new facility in Phoenix, under proper supervision and without the storytelling about corporate insights. Phoenix. Mom gasped. But our lives are here. My life was here too, I reminded her. Until you made it clear it wasn't good enough. Funny how perspective changes when you're on the other side of judgment. And what about my job? Dad asked quietly. You mean besides being the CEO's father who spent years mocking her career choice? That's up to you. Choose a folder. They stared at the folders like they contained explosives. In a way, they did. The power to blow up their comfortable assumptions about hierarchy, success, and family dynamics. You have until Monday to decide. I stood up, straightening my designer suit. Oh, and Mom? About those student loan payments you were so worried about. I paid them off 3 months after becoming CEO. My worthless degree actually turned out to be quite profitable. As they left my office looking shell-shocked and small, I called out one last time. Dad? Next time you want to share inside knowledge about corporate decisions, make sure you're not getting that knowledge from the daughter you underestimated. Sometimes success isn't just about proving them wrong, it's about becoming the person they never thought you could be. And sometimes the best revenge is simply letting them realize it on their own. The following week unfolded like a masterclass in corporate karma. Dad chose the Phoenix transfer, his pride unable to accept retirement under his daughter's terms. Mom spent 3 days crying about leaving their social circle, conveniently forgetting how many times she'd made me cry about my disappointing career choices. My office became a revolving door of revelations. Board members shared stories of my parents' previous comments at company functions, Dad's boasts about knowing the real corporate story, now hilariously ironic. Executives who'd endured his maintenance department's inefficiencies brought reports that suddenly made sense in light of his leadership style. "Miss Chin," Michael announced one morning, "your mother is in the lobby again. She's telling everyone about how she always believed in your potential." "Really?" I pulled up the security footage. Like when she told Mrs. Davidson at last year's Christmas party that I was still trying to find my path, while I was actually closing our biggest merger? She's requesting a meeting. Says it's about the Phoenix transfer. I checked my schedule, deliberately full of the international calls and board meetings they'd once dismissed as paper pushing. Give her 15 minutes this afternoon, I decided. Between Tokyo and London. When Mom entered my office later, she'd clearly dressed for the occasion, probably hoping to impress the daughter she'd never thought could succeed. "Emily," she started, clutching her designer knockoff bag, "about Phoenix. The decision is final." I cut her off, signing documents worth millions while she watched. "Dad's department needs proper oversight, and his reputation here is compromised."